Hello and welcome to the 2024 edition of the Good Guy Sports Mock Draft Special. Today we are joined by a number of guests, our usual crew of Jackson Gerke, Mike Roby, Blake Lineberger, and myself will be your mock draft host today. And we are joined by special guest Brian Gerke from Atlanta, although he is wearing an Eagles jersey right now. Don't be fooled.
Don't
And
be.
we've got John Hardy coming from Baltimore, although it looks like he's in Buffalo right now, judging from his background. So today we're going to be doing a mock draft special where we are each going to be making three selections. So the first 18 picks in today's NFL draft that will be commencing later tonight, live from Detroit, Michigan. So our order is going to be Jackson Gerke with picking first, Mike Roby second, Brian Gerke third, John Hardy fourth, Blake Limberger fifth, and then myself rounding it out in the sixth position. So without further ado, we will go ahead and kick it off with the first pick of the NFL draft, which belonged to the Chicago Bears via a trade, by the way, which with the Carolina Panthers, lest we forget. And Jackson Gerke is on the clock. So, Jackson, who do you like here? The first overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft.
I am going to be taking the most likely projected pick, which is a lot to me. Caleb Williams from USC, the Heisman Trophy winner from a couple seasons ago, and if you look at him, he is their dual threat, and I think he has comparison to Patrick Mahomes, and he can be their franchise quarterback of the future. He can be their next Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers comparison. And the Bears, yeah, they're going to be a bunch of boos and Motown in Detroit for those Bears fans. But I think the Bears are going to really like this kid because he is by far their best quarterback by far in this draft class. And I think his team will have a winning season in the future for the years to come for this organization. And 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 I think the Bears and I think if you're a Bears fan, you really got to be excited for what the future holds for your quarterback.
Yeah, it's certainly the consensus. All the experts have him going first overall. He's been first overall from the beginning. It'd be a huge shock if we didn't go first overall. And yeah, I totally agree. I think he's going to be, his comparison to Mahomes, he's mobile. He's got a big arm. He was a winner. There's not really too many negatives on Caleb Williams. If anybody has a quick opinion on Williams and how he thinks he'll do in Chicago, go ahead.
Well, I would say that I'm concerned he loves himself too much. The ego but let's see. Let's give him a chance. Chicago quarterbacks don't get a chance. It's a shame what they did with their last one. But anyway,
Fields, yeah.
Yeah, Fields has ended up in a good spot, so
that's true.
hopefully we can be optimistic about his future. I think Williams is going to be a star for these guys. They got a new stadium coming in. They're going to eliminate some of the weather. They're going to make this more of a place that a running quarterback can come operate. As long as he keeps his head down and does some work, I think he's going to be good. And
There's
Brian, to your point, like, yeah, he does love himself a lot. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out though, because he's really like the first quarterback from this like new generation of like NIL money where the player has more power than the team. So kind of see how that pans out.
Yep, yep. Good point.
Yeah, certainly. I think his career will definitely be everyone will have a watching eye on him in Chicago for sure. And to Brian's point, they haven't had a great history of quarterbacks, so he can definitely, elevate himself into that pantheon of Bears quarterbacks pretty easily if he has success there early in Chicago. Okay, Caleb Williams to Chicago from Jackson. No surprise there. Let's jump over to our second pick for the Washington Commanders, and let's jump to the DMV for Mike Roby. What do you have here, Mike?
All righty. Well, I'm going to go against the grain, and the Commanders are going to pick Drake May out of North Carolina.
Wow.
He's got Josh Allen size, and the Commanders know that he's going to be a work in progress, which is why they brought in Cliff Kingsbury as their new offensive coordinator, who helped train the collegiates Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, and Caleb Williams. So bringing in a new QB is not lost on Kingsbury. They also have a assistant QB coach, David Blau, who was also a quarterback. And they signed as a free agent Marcus Mariota, another 6'4" guy, 222 pounds, a little bit smaller than Drake May. So I don't see Drake May starting until next year or the year after. But I think they're going in it with their eyes wide open to get a big, beefy guy. He's got a strong arm, and that's who Commander's going to pick. And then they're going to wait around until the best offensive tackle, and they'll pick an offensive tackle in round 2.
So is that more of a pro Drake May or an anti Daniels pick from you?
I think it's a more of a pro Drake May than an anti Jaden Daniels, although Jaden Daniels has gotten a little bit of negative press here in DC. I don't think much of it is deserved on his part, but it's just the way the media plays in that. But it's more of a pro Drake May pick, and to keep Drake May away from the Patriots.
Interesting. I don't know. Do we have anybody in this call who's a huge Drake May over Daniels?
I'm an anti-UNC player, so
Anti UNC. Yeah.
Yeah.
That checks out. Well, I guess since the pairing of Drake May and Daniels has been kind of the way it's going, we can jump to the third pick, which belongs to Brian.
Yeah.
Are you gonna stick with the consensus and go with the third quarterback here?
You have to. The guy is pretty talented.
Jaden Daniels.
He's an athlete, as they say, and he is somebody you can't pass up with the talent he has. I think New England could ride him for a good 10 years and be real happy.
Any injury concerns there for you?
Always, you have that, but I don't think. I think he's going to be an all-pro kind of guy. I see him as the only move you can make with the third pick in this draft.
So if I'd given you the second pick, would you have still taken Daniels over May?
Yes,
Okay.
I would.
Interesting.
Now, were you saying Marcus Mariota is your starter?
I think he'll be the starter next year.
So you think May will sit for the
I
first
think May
couple
will
games?
sit. I think May will sit for at least the first half of the year.
I think you want him sitting, but Marcus Mariota, I was in Atlanta here when he played, what, 2 years ago, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
He is not a good quarterback.
No, I agree. Yeah.
He can't.
Well,
he can't throw.
Yeah, that's okay. The Commanders aren't a good team, so.
Okay.
It's a match made in heaven.
Yeah. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I thought he still had something. I was a fan before he started playing, and it was unfortunate. But anyway, Daniels is the pick of the New England Patriots.
Okay. Very nice. Daniels number 3. It'll be interesting to see. I know a lot of NFL experts are thinking that New England might even trade that pick. So we'll see what happens. But obviously, quarterback's in need, so that pick makes sense to me. Jumping to number 4, we have John picking for the Arizona Cardinals. John, what are you thinking here?
It's a rickety roster, Blake. It is real grim looking out there in Arizona right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with the shoe-in value pick here. I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. You can't go wrong here. You got a quarterback that needs somebody to throw to. This is the closest thing that we've seen to a Larry Fitzgerald. So that fan base and someone that's going to catch every ball, they need that desperately. I don't think they pass it up. Now, at the same time, the little research I've done, they potentially could trade down to 6 to New York if New York is looking to move up and get a quarterback in one of those top 4 picks. And Harrison Jr. may still be there. So we'll see. But if I'm picking, I'm taking the shoe in here. I'm not risking it. I'm getting what I think could be a generational talent at receiver.
Yeah, no, I personally think it's a good pick. It's a smart pick. Obviously, they're gonna go with Kyler Murray at the quarterback position in the short term here. So giving him a weapon like Harrison Jr., who if all the experts think he's the best receiver in this class, and he's going to be a top receiver in this league for sure. So I probably agree with you on that pick. If they don't take Harrison, they might look for a trade as well. Jackson, does that pick make sense? Picking a receiver here for Kyler Murray?
Yeah, I think it fits perfectly because if you look at him, he is by far, watch him on film, when he played his best ball at Ohio State, which shows you that I agree with John here that he can be one of Kyler Murray's to go to find his man to throw the ball or run the ball to for one of his weapons. And I think that what Arizona should really expect is that they can hopefully get it to one of your best playmakers for this team. And I think that for his playing career at Ohio State, he can do this open field run catch and track the ball and over the shoulder, and he can actually catch 50-50 balls. And that's one thing you should really like about this player. And he's 6'3" and 209 pounds, and I think that he can really attack the looks and just he can really do all your X factor plays.
Yeah,
for
no,
the
I
player
think
that
I think
your
he's a
team
really
looking for.
exciting prospect for sure. And yeah, I think like John said at the beginning, Arizona's a team that just needs talent. So taking a surefire receiver like Harrison, that makes total sense to me.
And who knows if these guys actually even like Kyler Murray based on how they treated him last season. Like that relationship seems a bit frail.
Right.
Yeah.
Harrison Jr. is as good as it gets from a bargaining piece to get a big name quarterback to come to you in the offseason this season if you've got him on your roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it at the top, but you'll notice the theme in our draft is very offensive heavy in terms of top prospects here. So if you read any of the experts mock drafts, it's, quarterback, receiver, offensive line are kind of the positions of the most value. So it's interesting to see different teams obviously have quarterbacks, different teams need weapons. So it'll be interesting to see how kind of some of these chips fall, but bringing it to number 5 for Blake Lineberger, picking for the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, new head coach Jim Harbaugh. They've got a quarterback, young, exciting Justin Herbert. So, are you going to go offensive line here? You think, Blake?
Wait, I thought I was the Vikings. Am I off on that? Did we get a pick trade?
Well, if you want to project a mock trade for Minnesota trading up to Los Angeles, you certainly wouldn't be the first. A lot of experts have
No.
Widely regarded.
Minnesota trading up.
Let's I'll tell you what. I'm so glad that quarterbacks that have played on average winning teams have already been taken. As Frank Martin said, I don't recruit players that aren't used to winning. So we got a USC quarterback that's had his fair share of losses. We got a Carolina quarterback that's had plenty of losses off the board. So thank goodness I'm going to get a winner. We're going to draft a winner and JJ McCarthy. We're going to take a guy that's used to winning, that likes to win and doesn't know how to lose. And that's who we're going to take.
Interesting. So do you have Minnesota trading up for McCarthy, or you think McCarthy is going to go to LA?
No, Minnesota. Yeah, sorry.
Minnesota trading up. Okay, so we've got Minnesota trading up to the fifth pick in exchange for their 11th and selecting JJ McCarthy. Does anybody think McCarthy kind of is a good fit for a team like Minnesota? I think, in my opinion, him going into a team without weapons would be a bit of a disaster, but that seems like a decent fit if anybody agrees.
Got some good weapons. He should be fine there. They've got what, two top tier receivers?
Yeah. Yeah, Justin Jefferson is obviously a huge weapon. I don't know. Uncle Brian, what do you
Then-
think about
Then
McCarthy in
Addison too,
Minnesota?
right?
Does that make sense?
I think you're overvaluing a quarterback to take him at number 5. I mean, it's just there are too many other players on the board that are going to be that are rated higher, that are going to be all pros. It's McCarthy's not a player you can. It's 50-50 with quarterbacks drafting,
Right.
and
If
I
that.
could go in either of those 50%. That's at the number 5 pick. I want a better percentage than that.
Yeah, no, I think I agree, and I think a lot of the the reason that Minnesota wants to trade up is some of the competition they might have from a New York Giants, for example, teams that need a quarterback. And obviously, once you get past the top 3 with Caleb, May, and Daniels, you've got a couple quarterbacks, but they're kind of in a
Right.
tier of their own. Honestly, a tier May and Daniels being a tier different from Caleb Williams even. So it might just come down to Minnesota. They have a good team minus a quarterback. Obviously, Kirk Cousins is now in Atlanta, so it might just be a move of desperation trading up at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely one to keep an eye on. That five slot for sure seems to be the consensus. So watching the broadcast tonight, I'll be interested to see if that comes to fruition, the trade there for Minnesota. But we've got it here on Good Guy Sports. Okay. Jumping to number 6 for myself, rounding out our first round of selections, the New York Giants are on the board. You could argue they would be looking at a quarterback here as well. Certainly a possibility if the Chargers end up holding on to their pick and not trading it to a team drafting up for McCarthy. They could look at McCarthy themselves here, but since we already had McCarthy going the previous pick, I'm going to go with wide receiver Malik Nabers from LSU. A lot of people think this guy might even be the best receiver in the draft over Harrison Jr. He's a really talented, explosive guy. Harrison Jr. is more of a physical, go up and grab a ball kind of receiver. Nabers is quick. He is physical as well. And to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised the Giants are going to be starting Daniel Jones at quarterback if that is the plan. So I think giving him a weapon would increase already a small chance that he's gonna, win over the fans in New York and guide that team. Last year obviously went pretty poorly up there for them. So I think getting any sort of surrounding him with any sort of talent would be a good idea. And obviously, even if they move on from Jones next year, having a guy like Malik Nabers in the building, certainly not a bad thing. So I'm going to go with a wide receiver weapon there. Anybody else a fan of Nabers?
I know that Chris Sims picked him as higher than Marvin Harrison Jr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've seen people will have him over Harrison Jr. I think majority are on Harrison Jr., but he must be talented to dethrone Harrison Jr. in a couple of picks. So I think he's good value for number 6 personally.
Yeah, he caught a lot of balls for sure.
Yeah, and obviously him and Jaden Daniels were a pretty potent offense last year at LSU. You could argue that Daniels might be even being overvalued if we didn't have someone like Malik Nabers to throw to. So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see how those two translate to the NFL for sure. Okay. Let's move on to our next round of selections. So going back to Jackson with the 7th pick, which belongs to the Tennessee Titans. And to provide some context, they did go quarterback last year with Will Levis. Maybe it's a bit of a up and down depending on how you see his progression last year. Seems like he's going to be the starting quarterback this year for Tennessee. So what do you think, Jack? Are they going to give Will Levis some protection on the offensive line, you think?
Well, my best available player that I got for the Titans is your best available player for the Titans. For me, it's Joe Alt from Notre Dame.
Nice.
He is a quick and outstanding feet and size. His mirrors recovers in well pass protection. He can adjust moving to pass targets in space, and he representatively gets the ball well, shots his hand, walks, and maintains in wide base on the run game. And also, and he can block to the whistle and overwhelm second level and defends and doesn't back down when opponents challenge him, which means the opposing team that go up against them can really shut down the big play, whether it's like he can shut you down no matter if it's like third or second or third or if there's a big play, fourth down. So I think he can do it all for what's to offer for this player. And I think that Mariota and the Titans are really going to like this kid and player. Great person to hang out with in the locker room, and I think that he will be one of your best players. I think for this team for Tennessee, and I think they're going to really like what they're going to see for this player. And if you compare this player, his comparison is to Andrew Thomas. So something to really keep an eye on, and I think that he can really shine and really just turn it up for those fans out in Nashville. And I think there's going to be lots to like for this player.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. And one thing to note is that Joe Alt's a really, really big boy. 6'9", 321 is what I have him on here. So if you're looking for a big guy to keep your quarterback safe, he's the one.
Six.
Glaring hole.
Yeah,
He will
absolutely.
easily, with that size, he will easily fill it.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a lot of offensive tackles in this draft, but for me, he's the pick of the bunch.
There you
Okay,
have it.
so Jackson picked Joe Alt to Notre Dame. So we still have a couple tackles left on the board as well. JC Latham and Fashanu from Penn State as well, just to keep everybody updated. Let's jump to Uncle Mike with the 8th pick, which belongs to the Atlanta Falcons.
All right. Well, all apologies to the Falcon fans out there. From what I've read, the Falcons could use an edge rusher. And that being the case, I will draft Dallas Turner from Alabama.
Okay. I like that pick. So do we think he is probably going to be do you think he's the best defensive option? Because like you said, Atlanta has gone heavy offense the past couple of drafts. So do you think it's a case of Atlanta just picking the defensive player they rate the highest and just leave it at that?
I think that's would be the case. You got to pick the best athlete for the position you need, and so I think he's rated one of the best edge rushers available out there in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Uncle Brian, you've got boots in the ground there in ATL. What are you hearing about this Falcons pick?
Yeah, I would. They do want and need an edge rusher for sure. I would think they'd also want to look at somebody like a Terran Arnold. I don't know if I got his first name there, but who to me is quite a talented cornerback. But I would go along with the Dallas pick.
Yeah, it seems like to me there's a couple of names on the defensive side of the ball that you could select here, unlike prior years where you've had a defensive player go first, second, third overall because they're the clear best player on the board, let alone defensive player. This,
Right.
like I said earlier, more of an offensive slanted draft. So
Yeah.
you could certainly go a number of different ways if you're looking defense, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a better pick than my first one. Yay.
I like no, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think your pick of Drake May might not be as crazy as you think because a lot of people have that May Daniels split down the line. So I'll certainly be curious to see what we hear from Washington in the next couple of hours leading up to the first round. Okay, so number 8 is off the board. So now we jump to Brian for number 9, which is owned by the Indianapolis Colts, who obviously they went quarterback early last year. So what do you have here for Indianapolis?
Um, I am going to go with somebody who I think is a generational talent. This Terran Arnold, who I just mentioned, is if you watch him, he is some kind of coverage guy. I think he's by himself in this draft, and is going to be for whatever team he goes to, rise to the top of the room for sure, and be a talent for years to come. I think he's got the size, the speed, and Indianapolis could certainly use someone like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point you make on the defensive backs in this draft. It's not a particularly deep class, so if a team like
Mhm.
Indianapolis is targeting that position, getting the number 1 guy in that position is a really good thing. So I think it's a smart pick from you. Maybe not, not the sexy pick of a receiver, but it might be the smarter pick in the long term, right?
Right, right. I think.
Okay, I like it. I like it. And he's from Alabama as well. So another one of Nick Saban's guy off the board. No surprise there. Okay, so that was number 9. So now we are jumping back to John with the number 10 pick, which is owned by the New York Jets. So an interesting team and an interesting crossroads here, you could argue. John, what are you thinking?
Just hate to see it. So high up in the draft within the same conference. We know that Rodgers is back. He needs some weapons. He's got kind of a depleted crew here. He's got Garrett Wilson back. Alan Lazard is Alan Lazard. Mike Williams hopefully is healthier this year. And then if Breece Hall continues to run the ball well, maybe he's got some stuff going on. But he needs another weapon because they are literally in the we will spend whatever money for a championship mode right now, and they probably got 1 to 2 more years left with Rodgers at max. So they're going to go offense, and I'm going to say that based on nobody else picking him up so far, that Rome Odunze is kind of fallen down from Washington on this leaderboard a little bit.
Yeah.
And looking at their lineup here, he gives you a nice little X out receiver that you can just put on the outside and let him go. They haven't really had that since OBJ left the Giants. So, or since OBJ left New York, they haven't really had like a receiver like this in New York City. So this is kind of the thing that the city needs. They need that electric kind of big play receiver. This is what the Jets need. I think this is a win-win.
I
Yeah,
like
no,
it.
yeah, Brian, you think that's a good pick from New York going receiver?
Yeah, I do. This is the kind of an example of when you take quarterbacks you shouldn't be taking, how somebody falls down, and all of a sudden you got somebody like Rome there for you, and you need to snap them up. Yep.
So you think, yeah, so Rome being undervalued there for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Is he,
pick.
is he better than Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU?
I think so. Um, they're not they're different receivers, I think, but I think Rome has the speed and the moves that are pretty outstanding, and he'll be the kind of player that'll help you right away. And I think the Jets
Jets need help right away.
Yeah,
They-
Mike, I think long term, you might be scratching on something. Thomas Jr. might be a better long-term pick. But
Yeah.
anything I had read on him, the brief research I did, he kind of needed a little bit more polishing.
right.
And I think Rodgers needs a plug it in and let him go this year kind of guy if the Jets are trying to get it done right now.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think going weapon there makes sense. And obviously taking a weapon there, you're thinking post Rodgers as well, given his age. So I think it's a good pick from John there. So we've got our first 10 off the board. Just to remind people about some of the names still on the board. We still have Latham from Alabama at tackle on the board. The tackles we've taken so far has just been Joe Alt. We've got who have we got? We've got Byron Murphy still on the board defensively, and we've got Brock Bowers, tight end. So if we jump to pick 11, that would be Blake Lineberger. And this is the pick that you traded, so you better know what you're picking here. So this one would belong to the New England Patriots that they received in the trade for the Vikings, where the Vikings took JJ McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. So what do you think New England should be targeting here after they trade back Blake Lineberger? What are you feeling here?
I'm an offensive guy, Blake. So we're gonna you said there's only been one tackle taken off the board so far, right?
Yeah, the only tackle Jackson took Joe Alt to Tennessee. Tackles still remaining. We've got J.C. Latham. We've got Fashanu from Penn State, and we've got Fatanu from Washington as well. A few names.
We're taking Troy. We're gonna take Troy Fatano from Washington.
Okay.
All day. Your quarterback is the problem with all these quarterbacks as a Carolina Panthers fan is we have no clue how good our quarterback is. He doesn't have any time. He's running for his life, and he can't. So we truly we give him a lot of hate, but we truly have no clue how good he is because he hasn't had time. So we're going to build that lineup. We're going to build a lineup, and we're going to give all of our offensive linemen a ATV if they perform well, like the days of the Cowboys and Troy Aikman. So we're going to take Troy.
All right. But point of reference, you're picking as the Patriots and not the Panthers.
A lot of teams need to protect their quarterback, right? So
These East Coast teams all seem to be in about the same situation right now.
yeah, no, and it's a good point as well made by Blake Lineberger, because it's all well and good taking a talented quarterback, but if he's getting hit every other play, how much of an evaluation can you really make on?
That's right. He
on
turns
that
into an
player?
RG3.
Exactly. So if you're going to make that investment into a top-ranked quarterback, you better make sure you're able to protect him. So I think that's a kind of a golden rule in the NFL, in my opinion. Okay, so we've got Troy Fatanu going 11th to the Patriots via trade with Minnesota. So that would put me on the clock at number 12, which belongs to the Denver Broncos. They're an interesting position as well. They obviously have traded Russell Wilson to the Steelers for a bag of chips. So they're going to be looking to maybe not get a quarterback at this stage. They've rumored to.
Too.
What's that?
And they're paying him too.
Exactly, yeah. So you could argue there might be in the worst spot in the league where they've invested money in somebody, gotten rid of them, and don't have much talent really remaining on that roster. Some people like Denver trading up to take a quarterback. We obviously had Minnesota taking that number 5th spot, so I think Denver's going to remain here at 12. And to be honest, of some of the names that I'm seeing here, I'm going to go with a defensive player. I think he might be, some have him rated as the highest defensive player in this draft. Byron Murphy, defensive tackle from Texas. A lot of people, like I said, think he might be the best defensive player. I think getting somebody with size in the middle, obviously Denver just doesn't have much talent in general. So I think he's probably the best position, the best player at the best position here to take. And there's not a lot of defensive talent in this draft in general. So going defense early, I think probably is the best way. And I think Sean Payton will probably just look to rebuild this year, to be honest. Does anybody think there's a possibility of Denver trying to rival Minnesota for a McCarthy trade, or do you think Denver's not going quarterback? If anybody has an opinion on that.
Well, didn't Denver just get traded for Zach Wilson? Not that
I said
means
they needed a
anything.
quarterback, not a Zach
Yeah.
Wilson.
Well,
Well put.
Yeah, no, I think maybe they're envisioning a scenario where Zach Wilson wins that job later into the year, but unless McCarthy's on the board, I don't see them going quarterback.
I don't feel like McCarthy fits within that system either.
what about Bo Nix?
He may. That's actually a good call.
Yeah,
I don't know if they stretch for him here. You probably get Bo Nix in the second round.
Yeah, I think if Denver has their eyes on Bo Nix, they can definitely look to trade back or maybe even get him in the second round. But yeah, I don't hate that fit, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a good point, Mike. He does feel more like a player that fits into kind of what they're doing, almost Drew Brees like.
Well, if they take Nix, I know the Steelers will be sitting there cheering. Because there's another player that's going to drop down to them that they didn't think would be there. Because somebody's taken quarterbacks out of order.
Exactly. Yeah, it goes back to your point of as the more teams that take quarterbacks early, the teams later in the draft benefit that already have quarterbacks. So absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I just picked for Denver at 12. So now we can jump to all the way back to Jackson Gerke picking 13th for the Las Vegas Raiders. So just to refresh Jackson on a couple of names we still have available here, some of the guys that have been sliding in our mock. We still have Latham, tackle from Alabama, on the board. We still have Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia, on the board. We've got Fashanu, tackle from Penn State. And we've got Latu, edge rusher from UCLA, just to name a few. Anybody standing out to you, Jackson, here for the Vegas Raiders? Although, and not to put any ideas in your head, I have seen reports of them liking Michael Penix. So what do you think the Raiders should do here?
I agree with you. Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback out of Washington. I think I agree with you. Is the perfect fit for this team, and here's why. He has started his career at Indiana in college, and has and took his and he took his team all the way to the national championship, but ended up losing to the Wolverines this past season. But there's lots to like for this player and kid. He is a great
Yeah, so you think maybe
he is a great player on and off the field. I think that he grew up in Indiana, played with the Hoosiers, and has and was a Heisman Trophy finalist, but ended up losing ended up losing to Jaden Daniels out of LSU. So
yeah, so I guess this pick here for you, Jack, you think it's Vegas makes sense going for a quarterback because of some of the investment they've made into the other parts of their team, but maybe not into the quarterback position. So I think that makes sense, right, Jack?
I do, yes. I think the Raiders are looking for a quarterback that can really that can really help your team push the ball downfield, whether it's a catch or a or a throw or a run downfield to try to get the team to score more and just and stay your and healthy. I think that for your team could, if you try to find a quarterback like Michael Penix, I think he's your best answer. And hopefully, if I get it right, I think the Raiders should really like what they're getting for this player. And I'm assuming they'll get it right, but I think the Raiders but to me, I think the Raiders will get it right in their decision making with their quarterback.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely something that we've been seeing, that association, Penix and the Raiders, over the past couple weeks. And obviously, when you've got the likes of Devontae Adams, getting a quarterback with a big arm certainly makes sense. What do you guys think? Is it realistic for Vegas to go quarterback here?
I think the Raiders will go to quarterback. I'm just be concerned with injuries for Penix.
Obviously, age and injury history being the big red flags there, right?
Yeah.
But you know, to watch him with that smooth delivery, he is a very accurate guy. And if he can avoid injury, I think you have yourself somebody who can play this game at a high level. So I think his upside is pretty good, but he needs some protection for sure.
Yeah, and part of me wonders if Michael Penix wouldn't be rated a lot higher in this draft, given if he was maybe a year or two younger, and didn't have quite the substantial injury history that he does. But
Right.
that's the reality, and that's the reason why he's in this late part of the first round. But like you said, he certainly got the talent to impress some scouts. So it wouldn't shock me if he goes in that section of the first round.
Yep.
Okay, Jackson taking Penix off the board, offensive heavy so far in this draft. So that would put Mike up in the 14th spot, which belongs to the New Orleans Saints.
Who dat?
Who dat? So we a couple tackles left on the board. Brock Bowers has been dropping as well. Who do you like here for the Saints?
Well, I think this number one thing the Saints needs is help with the offensive line as their number one need. I'm going to go with J.C. Latham out of Alabama.
It's a good pick
for their help.
It's a steal at that position, I think, as well. Yeah, and some people have him as the best lineman in the draft.
Having it available at the 14th pick, you got to take him. So
yeah, absolutely. Continuing the trend of offensive tackles in this draft, we're going to see a lot of them. So, like I said earlier, reinforcing the offensive line.
Yeah,
and
you're going to pay a quarterback big bucks. You got to protect him.
Exactly. So I think that makes a lot of sense, going tackle there for the Saints. So I think he was the highest player we had falling on our board, J.C. Latham. So I do think J.C. Latham versus Joe Alt for that first tackle taken is a good debate, and I think Jack picked him 7th to Tennessee, and now we've got Latham falling behind. So that's one to keep an eye on for tonight in the broadcast to see who that first tackle taken overall is.
Yeah, well, I've Latham and Alt as 1 and 2.
There you go.
I mean, so not surprising.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we have Brian picking 15th for the Chicago Bears. So this was the Bears original, or sorry, is this the
this is the Colts.
Or sorry, the Colts. Colts picking 15th here. Or did I? Yeah, I might have changed the order by accident where I mixed up the Bears and the Colts, but I think this is the Colts in the 15th. So who do you like here?
I think it's between Jared Verse and defensive end out of Florida State. But if they want to go offense, and Blake, you keep saying this is an offensive draft, so I want to help you out there and make sure it is.
Reinforce.
Brian Thomas Jr. From LSU. And he is both of those receivers are pretty talented. But I think with Indianapolis and their new quarterback last year, it can be a much needed help to him in getting the ball down the field, which they need to do. So that's my pick.
I like it. Yeah, I think adding some offensive weapons to Indianapolis is a good thing as well. So I think taking another talented receiver from LSU is never a bad thing at all. So it might even be overshadowed by the likes of Malik Neighbors, Thomas Jr. So I think there's some good value there for sure. Yeah, and I think just to clean up earlier, we had it was Chicago at 9 and then Indianapolis at 15. So I had that switched up earlier. So 15th, we've got Brian has Thomas Jr. to the Colts. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so next in our draft, we've got a couple of picks left. And now we've got John picking for the Seahawks at 16th. Interesting. Could go in a couple of different directions. Who do you like here?
I'll tell you what, the Seahawks draft room is in complete chaos right now because we were just really hoping that Thomas Jr. was going to slide down to that 16th pick so that we could make a trade with somebody who needed a receiver. Because if you just look at what the Seahawks have done, they've traded down 6 of their last 12 picks in the first round. So it's what ownership likes to do. It's what they've been looking to do. If I'm looking for the Seahawks, we know that they need an offensive tackle of some sort. So we could either go with, I can't pronounce either of these guys' names. Tylise,
So we got Fashanu
from Penn State, and then Fuaga from Oregon State, both still on the board, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Both those guys fill a hole that they need, but I got the Bills sign on here. So the scramble and the chaos in the Seahawks trade room still happening. Bills are trading up from the spot 28 to 16. Ooh. We were hoping to fill it with Thomas Jr. That was going to be an easy trade. But you know what? We're going to take Brock Bowers because he is,
wow,
who some say, the next Kelsey.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
A tight end with a receiver's body and plays like a receiver. You just slot him in the line a little bit differently. We know that with the madness and the chaos that Josh Allen creates, you need somebody like that with a big body. So we're going to trade up and get it. Gets a little blocking and offense at the same time. Go Bills.
I think it makes a lot of sense for the Bills, given the fact they lost Diggs, to make a trade up into the draft looking for a weapon, whether that's receiver or tight end. So someone like Bowers slides into the middle of this first round. I think it's very plausible they trade up for him. So
it's a great way to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Gotta have it.
A younger, better Kelsey.
Yeah.
Or just a receiver that catches the ball, unlike Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis, who are both gone.
There you go. There you go. So it'll be interesting to see. I think certainly to see how the team like the Bills that needs a weapon, how they have the receivers ranked, and whether or not they go for a Bowers versus one of the later receivers like a A.D. Mitchell or Xavier Worthy from Texas, for example. Some of these later round guys that teams later in the first round, second round might take a flower on, but someone like Bowers, who he's really the only tight end name that you're hearing about for this early section of the draft. If he's there, might as well trade up for him. So I like it.
Yeah, he's a quality individual too, which always helps.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he obviously played for a great team at Georgia. He knows about winning ball games. So
yeah, he's a leader. He's a leader.
Should fit in nicely with that Buffalo culture.
Yeah,
of
look, Buffalo's they gotta sell some tickets because this stadium is really expensive.
Mm,
I mean, the upkeep on that thing must be crazy.
Hey, it's not even done yet. They've really only broken ground.
Very nice, very nice. So we got a mock trade. Seattle trading out to Buffalo at 16 from John. Very nice, very nice. Okay, last couple of picks here. We have Blake Lineberger picking at the 17th spot, which belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Interesting team. Maybe you could argue they haven't made the strides you would have thought, with Trevor Lawrence at the helm. So, Blake Lineberger, where do you think Jacksonville is looking to go here?
Well, we're a little upset about the Brock Bowers, but we're going to give him some more weapons, like he had in Clemson, and we're going to pick. Has Mitchell been taken yet? Adonai Mitchell.
Mitchell is available.
Oh, he's a flyer.
That's
Take him.
that's who. Yeah, we're going to give him another receiver. Give him some weapons. Clemson liked the offense, and we're going to try to make Jacksonville an offensive. We're going to win with points down there, so that's who we're taking. Go hook 'em horns.
I like it. I like it. I think giving Trevor Lawrence an extra weapon there makes sense. And obviously if you can't get one of the top receivers, maybe go with the Mitchell. What do you guys think of that pick?
I think it's a potential reach, but if anyone's gonna really unlock the potential of this guy, it's someone like Lawrence. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything I've heard of Mitchell early in the process is that he could have been, maybe he's got the talent to be a top end, but you know,
What do
maybe
you
he's
think of Roman Wilson out of Michigan?
Roman Wilson. Interesting.
Roman Wilson.
What's what's his background?
Well, that's a good question. I just saw him ranked as number 5 in Chris Sims' wide receiver ranking in this year's draft.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that after you get through the first couple of receivers, you can definitely make arguments for some of the other guys. No, I personally think going with upside with Mitchell there makes sense if he's available. But it's certainly not a sure thing that the likes of, you know, a Marvin Harrison or a Neighbors pick is at the receiver position.
yeah, I don't know what the Jags offensive line looks like either. You got a quarterback with fragile knee. If they've got any kind of gaps there, they may go there too. Still on our board, there's some quality guys there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
All I can say is, Blake, is that whatever Jacksonville does, I hope they do the right thing. If they add that player from Michigan or Mitchell, or find the right pieces to fit for this offense for the Jaguars owner and for the team. Well, if they get it right and if they stay healthy and if they get it right and they stay healthy, hopefully they have a great draft. But let's say if they do, then I'll tell you what. This offense, this team should light it up down in Duval.
Duval Jackson. Listen, we're the ownership. We're going to redevelop downtown. The bad part of Jacksonville, we're making it flashy. It's going to be Atlanta Braves-esque. There's going to be hotels, restaurants around the stadium, and our offense is going to match. We're going to have a flashy offense. He's used to the hot weather in Texas, and we're going to get it done. Duval
County in the house here on Good Guy Sports.
Largest county in the United States. Largest county in the United States.
Wow, that's an interesting fact from a history lesson from the great B.O. Lineberger on Good Guy Sports for you.
Well, there you have it, Jacksonville 2.0. So closing out our mock draft with the last pick, which will be 18th, belonging to the Cincinnati Bengals. I could be boring here and just take a tackle, but I want to be interesting since this is the last pick that we're going to do, and I'm going to give him Xavier Worthy from Texas as a weapon to possibly replace T. Higgins if he leaves next year, to give Joe Burrow some extra help there at the receiver position. A lot of people have him going with the last pick of the first round to the Chiefs. Wouldn't surprise me as well. Despite them winning back-to-back Super Bowls, you could argue they don't have a top-tier receiver talent. So wouldn't shock me to see him go to Kansas City. But I think a team like Cincinnati, like I said, they could be losing the likes of T. Higgins. He's kind of waffling about his contract a little bit. So I've got him going in the 18th
Who's
position.
going to throw him the ball?
Burrow, right?
Oh, that paper mache quarterback without an offensive tackle that you just missed is not throwing the
Well,
ball.
I think they could get a tackle in the second round who, at least won't get run over every play, maybe.
Fair.
But that's my plan for 18 there. So that would conclude each of us making 3 picks, i.e. the top 18. So some interesting selections there for sure. It'll be interesting to see how accurate we have. Feel free to track tonight to see May versus Daniels, which tackle goes first, receiver, etc. So Brian, before we go, Pittsburgh didn't make it into our top 18, but I think you hinted at it earlier, possibly somebody falling there. But what's your dream scenario for Pittsburgh's draft?
Well, these players falling, some good players falling because people are thinking quarterbacks are going to make it who don't quite have the talent. We'd love to see Nate Wiggins fall to us at cornerback from Clemson. Brian Thomas, who knows if there's going to be somebody, I think, there that has been forgotten and is going to drop. And every pick that is a surprise that they went that high is going to be helpful to us. Now, I think they're going to end up with they've made it. Here's Rooney, and the Rooneys have done a couple things lately. They have put Omar Khan, the con man, in charge of as a general manager. And this guy is sharp. He has a nice staff. Some of the people who built the Eagles, offense and defensive lines, have helped Pittsburgh and Omar. So look for him to trade up and trade down and do some things that Pittsburgh isn't known to do. But I think if we stay at 20, to get Barton as a center from Duke or Mims as another offensive lineman from Georgia would be great picks at 20. So I'm going to go with Barton, hopefully. We really need a center, and this guy is worthy of a number 1 pick.
Yeah, I like it. I think Pittsburgh's certainly a team to keep an eye on. They've reloaded at the quarterback position, so they're certainly not looking to rebuild. So there should be some good names available at that position.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
keeping a center away from the Cowboys is good for the Commanders.
Also a good point.
So I think the Cowboys are going to pick a offensive lineman or a guard or center as their first pick, since they need a center.
Right.
Well, and my point in bringing up the lineman here and the center is that the Steelers want to run the ball. They want to run the ball, and they need to get back to that. They need hogs up front, both on offensive and defensive lines, and they're building in that direction. And this would be another piece of the puzzle, a perfect fit. Some of these guys I've talked about. So that's what they're doing in Pittsburgh. And we had a lot of hope last year. Pickett didn't work out, and we're going in a different direction, but you still need the people up front to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it'll be one of the more interesting drafts that we've had, certainly given some of the uncertainty. We know who the number 1 pick is more than likely, but some of the uncertainty around the top 5 picks, teams looking to trade up that need a quarterback but have other positions. So yeah, no, I think I think we're in store for a really good night in Motor City tonight. That's for sure. Yeah, it looks like we're just about out of time. So just want to thank everyone for joining us, and Brian, John, Mike, Blake, Lineberger, and Jackson. Want to thank you for making some excellent picks today in our Good Guy Sports Mock Draft 2024 edition. So just want to thank everyone for joining, and everyone out there, have a great draft.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kamish.
Thank you. Thanks,
Jackson,
Blake.
this was awesome, buddy. Thanks for
Good.
inviting
Thanks,
me.
Jackson.
Good
See you.
time.
Blake.
Thanks for having you. Thanks for having me on, John, for the first time.
No doubt, buddy, no doubt.
I enjoyed having you on our show for the first time.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Good
Blake,
job.
congrats on the Hall of Fame, Blake.
I appreciate it. I'm
Well,
on my way to Canton as we speak.
Have a good night, guys. Go Knicks.
Go.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys. All right.
Night.
Night.